Hello, and welcome to Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, our very own M'Baku, Alessandro Baelsi. Say hello, Al.
I'm way more jacked than M'Baku.
It's not an insult. This one, it was the closest character that you are in the movie. This week's show, Nick Cage finally gets to be Superman. Fantastic Beasts sequel trailer drops. Ready Player One initial reactions are in. All before diving into our flick of the week, Black Panther. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
Oh, I'm sorry. Before I go into that, you were asking for some of Al's nuggets. There is something that we may have to discuss due to the conversations around Ready Player One that I don't know if you're familiar with. Okay. And it may have me do some dramatic reading on air here that may cause anyone, including yourself who's listening, to laugh hysterically. Right. There may be some spit takes. People may pee themselves a little bit. There's going to be some cringing and awkwardness.
I'm excited.
But we're drinking the glorious return of Newburgh Brewing Company on this show. They're still not our sponsor. For those of you who have been with us since day one, we are drinking their New York Boss, which is part of the Boss series. It's an India Pale Ale. And what makes this unique to them is that every one of their ingredients was made in the state of New York. It's the first beer that they were able to say that.
That's cool.
The India Pale Ale that they've made is brewed collaboratively with Whole Foods markets, made using 100% New York State grown ingredients. It's not just Boss, it's New York Boss. 7% alcohol by volume. And as with many of our favorite beers, it's come in a pint.
It comes in pints! With crazy-ass robots on the label, which I love.
Yes, all the Boss beers have robots on them, which is great. You want to take a sip of this?
Yeah, let's.
This is really pale.
Let's give this guy a try. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, very mild.
Shocker, I like it. Have not been disappointed.
It's very hoppy in aroma, but it's much more reserved to the taste.
I would agree with that.
I also have a little extra blurb about this after some painstaking searching on the internet that I was looking for right before we started the show. The malt they all got from the Germantown Beer Farm, which is somewhere in New York, and they get all their hops from Peterson Hop Farm.
Cool.
Their yeasts, I believe they all do in-house, which I think is cool when breweries can do that. And as far as the water goes, I'm going to be honest, Newburgh doesn't have great water, but I don't know which water they use.
Nice. This is tasty. I like this. Grapefruity a little bit. Is that right? Grapefruit and orange? Yeah.
There's definitely some citrus in there. I could smell it when I was pouring it. It might even be... Is that a hint of lemon?
I don't know. I smell grapefruit. It's so funny because I don't like grapefruit that much, and I despise grapefruit juice. But grapefruit in my beers, I tend to enjoy.
Yes. Well, I like grapefruit flavor and aroma. I don't actually like grapefruit in my beers. Because that's
like a slice of it, or this?
No, it's becoming like a thing that some of these like IPAs are using grapefruit itself.
Oh, interesting.
Which I'm not really a fan of. But like Mosaic hops, I've been in a couple of beers we featured. It's been a couple of beers I've made. And I am a fan of those. But I don't know. It's funny. For an IPA that's 7%, the flavor is really restrained, or I'm having a stroke and I can't taste anything.
No, I assure you, you're okay. I feel the same.
It's just everything. Like it all tastes good, but it's very muted. It's weird.
It's very drinkable, though.
I'm a little disappointed in this. I mean, I guess it's refreshing. It doesn't taste bad. It's just not particularly bold.
Yeah.
The body is almost Pilsner-like.
I like it. It's not my favorite one, but I'm enjoying it.
I don't dislike it, but this one's expensive, so I don't think I'm going to buy this again.
Question: should we have tried to drink it out of the can?
Didn't say anything about that.
This is going to be my new thing. I'm forever going to wonder after I poured the entire thing out, oh no, did I do it wrong? Can I pour it back in the can?
That's not going to work.
I know. It's going to make it twice as bad.
No, those Alchemist guys are just fucking insane, man.
I'm on board. I like this. I like everything that you bring me from them, so I'm happy with it.
They definitely don't have any bad beers, except for there was one I didn't like, but it probably has less to do with the quality of the beer and more to do with my own personal taste, and that was the oyster stout they had. Oyster stout? Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that.
What's an oyster stout?
It's made with real bits of oyster.
Not sure how I feel about that. I don't think I would be interested in that. I mean, I guess I would try it, obviously, but why is my question.
They also made a chili lime stout that used to be one of their ones that they always had on tap. It's a beer that you just have to experience.
That's exactly what I thought when you said that. I feel like it's something that I really, really want to try. Don't necessarily want it, but I really want to try it.
Yeah.
Is that something they still make?
No, I don't think they've made it in a long time, actually.
If you come across that, you're gonna have to let me know. I'd be interested to try that.
If they have a brief resurgence of it, I'll get a crowler of it and we can experience it together.
That sounds good. That sounds good. I appreciate that. Sweet. So our first topic for the show is Nick Cage is finally getting his Superman role on in an animated format. So are you familiar with the story of the unreleased or unmade Tim Burton Superman film?
Yes, starring Nicolas Cage.
That sounds like something I really want in my life. So it's unfortunate that doesn't exist because I love Nick Cage and his 7 billion movies.
It depends on which Nick Cage you're talking about.
I love Gone in 60 Seconds Nick Cage and National Treasure Nick Cage and Con Air Nick Cage. You are right. He is a different person in all of these things, but there's an undertone of Nick Cage in there.
Yeah, Nick Cage is someone who used to be a good actor, genuinely.
Yep.
I don't know if he always was, but he certainly has become a very eccentric human being. And his eccentric way of life led to him becoming a literal movie whore.
Right.
I don't know if a lot of people know the things that have gone on in Nicolas Cage's life. I only know little bits of them. But the stories are hysterical, and he's needed to whore himself out to any movie that will have him to fund his eccentricities.
Oh my god, that's great.
I got to hear, completely accidentally, a story about him. Are you familiar with American Horror Story?
Yes.
Have you seen all the seasons or some of the seasons?
No, just the first. I don't even know if I saw all of the first one. The show didn't grab me.
Did you see the season with all the witches, the Coven season?
No.
So, in that season, it takes place in
New Orleans,
Louisiana, New Orleans.
Yeah, I walked past. He has an estate there. Had. Okay. Well, walked past that.
So on the show, they talk about the most haunted house in the entire U.S. It was owned by these slave owners in the 1830s. The lady of the house was known to torture the shit out of her slaves.
Yeah, I actually know that. It's funny. I want you to tell the rest of it, but I know this one because we did a little ghost tour when we went there. We walked to this house and they told us the stories.
So that house is a historical landmark. It's the Lalaurie estate, I believe. And Nicolas Cage bought it. He didn't know anything about it. Bought the estate. Stayed there for a few days when he bought it. But when he bought it, I think it coincided with roughly Halloween of that year.
Okay.
And he didn't know that there were tours that were going to be given of the house.
Oh my god.
And all of a sudden, he walked up to the balcony or something, and he saw all these people crowded around outside, and he thought they were there to see him. but they were there on a tour. So when he found this out, him and his wife, and I think at the time he had kids that were rather young, they decided to, there's a tour of this, let's go through the tour. And he heard about all of the brutal torture that happened in this house.
Yeah.
Heard about the supposed real-life hauntings that have been reported in the 150 years since, or 170 or whatever the hell years since. And I think he lived there over the course of a long weekend and never entered the house again.
Oh my god, that is great.
And he spent millions of dollars on this house. So that's just a little snapshot into the crazy that is Nicolas Cage and why you understand now that he literally whores himself out to every movie.
I just want to be a fly on the wall for his life for like, I don't know, 2 hours. I think that would be more than enough.
Yeah, I heard this story told by, it was recently too, it was literally like a month ago. Or maybe a little more. One of the tour guides at the time, who now I think now runs the estate and tours there now, like came on like a radio show and was talking about this. Like I guess he was one of the people giving the tours that day.
Okay.
So he like either saw this or someone like told him about it right afterwards. So he's like intimately aware of the details of this and like relayed the story very recently on air.
That's so funny. I love that. He's just, when I see his name pop up on something, I am interested. I do know that it's a 50-50 shot most of the time.
Well, it's like, there's a pretty fine, like literally the center point of his career is National Treasure.
Uh-huh.
Because before that there were some duds, but mostly he was still being actor Nicolas Cage.
Right.
But around that time is when he became whore Nicolas Cage.
That's totally fair. I feel like I've seen some of those movies, like movies that, like they show up on a random station on your television. And,
yeah, for some reason they put a lot of his bad movies on like FX and Sci-Fi a lot.
Yeah, well, it's because his name pops up and you're like, oh, Nicolas Cage. Oh, well, we've gone this far and the remote's on the other side of the room now, so I guess I'm watching this. But I don't know. There's just something so entertaining about it. He is like super charismatic in all of his roles. Like, and he's just super entertaining. Gone in 60 Seconds is one of my favorites. I love that movie. And
I know a lot of people love that movie. I saw it once.
Oh man, he's just such a goofball in that movie, and it's one of the ones that I will randomly quote that most of the time people just don't get because they haven't seen it as many times as I have. But super appreciated that. So there's a Teen Titans Go movie being made, and he's going to voice Superman. So I guess that's the closest we're going to get. But I will definitely be watching that for that reason. And I want to know, like, is he going to do a voice, or is he just going to be Nick Cage talking as Superman? Because I'm really hoping it's the latter.
I'm going to be really upset if he doesn't do Superman by way of Cameron Poe.
God.
Please put the kryptonite back in the box.
Jesus.
My very bad impression of a Southern accent.
I'm on board. Let's do that. Let's make that be the case. Especially when he's talking to mom and dad. The Kents. Oh, man. That would be solid. So,
well, isn't perfect for a Ma, whatever happened to Pa?
So I think it's settled. We're going to do this movie at some point. This Teen Titans Go animated feature with Nick Cage as Superman. Whenever that comes out, I'm going to be all over it, and we're going to have to do an episode on it because I'm excited.
I'm not going to be able to take that seriously.
I'm not asking you to. So moving on to our second story of the week here. So the trailer for Fantastic Beasts 2 came out. I think it's like The Crimes of Grindelwald or something like that. Grindelwald.
That sounds right.
I don't know. Are you a fan of the Harry Potter universe?
I think that you should know that I'm as big a fan as you'll find.
Oh, sweet. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you were like super into it.
I know we've talked about it before.
Well, anyway, that's great.
Me and a bunch of my friends have been huge fans of it for going back forever, including having gone and seen a couple of the midnight showings of some of the later releases.
Yep.
My first adult-ish level fight ever happened after one of those where I beat the shit out of one of my best friends. That was fun.
You're mudblood.
I wish that would have been that. No, the story's pretty funny as it is, but it would have been even funnier if it was over something stupid like that.
That would have been pretty great. Can we hear the story, or is it something that you'd rather not disclose?
I mean, I've told the story before. It's a long-ish story, so I'll give you the cliff notes.
Okay.
There were 5 of us going to the movies. We were about 15 at the time. 14, 15. And one of our friends' mom drove all of us to the movie, picked us all up, and we were going to stay at my friend's house. And it was in like a Mercedes like SUV, 3 rows. And her son got in the front seat. And there was 4 of us to figure out who was going to sit in the middle bench, like 3 seats,
yeah, and
then one in the back row. So me and my friend were the last 2 getting to the door, and had to decide who's going to go in the back. And I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'll get in the back, even though I'm way bigger than him.
Uh-huh.
We get back. They don't help me get out because, I got to knock down the seat. I'm like, I couldn't figure out how to do it. So they're all inside by the time I get out of the fucking car. We get up. They have really nice reclinable leather seats that we're going to be sleeping on that night. That like laid down all the way flat.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 of them. There's 5 of us. Since I'm the last one up, I did not get to claim a chair.
Okay.
And I said, okay. I took the back seat, even though I was like sitting sideways in there. Why don't you let me sit in the last seat? It's like there's like this like foldable cot thing over there. I'll drag it over, help you get it set up. You can sleep on that. And he said no.
And that's what I killed him, Your Honor.
And that's what. No, I'm going to come out the good guy in this story, even though I beat the shit out of him. It wouldn't be the case if that was what happened. No, we argued over it for a while. I dragged over the thing, and I was like, here, it's right here. Like, no. He's like, so I'm resigning myself to the fact that I'm probably going to have to sleep in it.
Right.
So the other 3 are like, one of them's like, oh, I got to go take a piss. He's like, please don't take my seat. I was like, no, you're good. You don't take a piss, man. I want his seat. Because I took the back seat, no questions asked earlier. So now they're lording it. Like, one of them's like, oh, I'm going to go down and get drinks for everyone. Does everyone want one? Yeah. And then they didn't get one for the last guy.
That's
so
great.
he had to get up and go get his own drink if he wanted it. Like, they're all like joining in and having fun with this too now.
Uh-huh.
So after like an hour or 2, he's like, oh, I got to go take a piss. Don't take my seat. I was like, I can't make any promises. The lights are off. Like, we have they had like a big screen TV, so like it was all backlit. Like, we were watching whatever. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's 2 in the morning and 3 in the morning, whatever. And he gets up and closes the door to the room. So I wait about 5 seconds. They're all sitting there waiting for me to get up. I get up and go sit in the seat. The second I sit down, he like throws himself through the doorway. He took his belt off of his pants and swung the belt buckle first and cracked me upside the head with it.
Oh.
Like, literally hit me right next to, like, my eye socket, like, on, like, the temple.
Oh, good.
And I jumped up and I beat the shit out of him.
And that's when you killed him.
And that's when I killed him.
Oh, my God. That's pretty funny. So, back to this, though. I mean, we grew up at, like the perfect time for this. Like, I don't know when you started reading them, but, like, I remember vividly being in, like, I think it was, like, 7th grade, but I remember, like, my friend telling me, hey, this is really good. You should read this. And
I think I read the first one when I was in, like, 2nd or 3rd grade. Like, that's because it was, like, basically when it came out.
Okay. And so it was, by the time I started, there were 3 out already, or 2 out, and the 3rd one was coming out. But
I think I read the first one, and, like, the 3rd one was coming out soon.
Gotcha. So Margaret was like, you guys should read this. So we're like a bunch of us that were all friends were like, oh, cool. So we went and we got the book and we all started reading it and we like fell in love with the book. It was, it was great. It's like everything you want at that age and everything that I want. I actually started rereading the first one a few weeks ago. So I'm getting back into it. But I just love it.
Originally, you had never really finished reading the series, right?
I still haven't.
Okay. I remember I was talking about it a while ago, like you've seen all the movies, but you hadn't read all the books.
Yeah, I never got through 6.
And I think that might be my favorite one.
That's what I hear, but I started it like 4 times and I never got through it. But I will try. I will definitely. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to try again once I get up to it. I'm starting back at the beginning and working my way through. But there's just something. The world is just so compelling. Like I love the setting. I love the ideas. I love the lore that they put. It's just a lot of fun. And I don't know how you seem like you might be even a bigger fan than I from what you just said there before. But how do you feel?
I've read the entire series several times over.
Did you see the Fantastic Beasts movie?
No, I had no interest.
You have no interest. Why is that?
It makes the bastardization of the Hobbit book into the movies look tame. Like, it's literally not even a real story that it was based on. Like, they just made up this whole thing.
Uh-huh.
I saw bits of it. Didn't care for the cast. Didn't care for what was going on. I mean, it's the type of thing that I probably will sit down and watch eventually. Like, if I see it's on HBO and it's like, all right, like, I'll sit down and watch the movie and see what it's about. But when it came out, I just was not interested.
But why? So I'm curious about this. So you seem like annoyed by this movie because it's not based on the original.
It's not so much that it's not based on, it's the way that it came about. And that kind of like, because at first it was just supposed to be a one-off movie, and then like halfway through making it, they decided they were going to turn it into like a quadrilogy or something.
Okay.
And I don't know. It just feels like it was made as a cash grab. Which, the reason you make any movie like this is to make money, but like making the other Harry Potter movies, there was a reason they made them. You know what I mean? It's okay, yeah, we're gonna make a lot of money, but like they tried to make these movies based on these books or whatever. It's hard to explain, I guess. I don't know. It just felt kind of cynical the way behind it. It didn't feel like it had the same heart that the other movies had. Interesting.
So I watched it like like a few months back, probably like end of the summer maybe actually, but I really enjoyed it because I was thrown back into this world that I really, really enjoyed with a new set of characters, and I got to experience it from like a different angle. And I thought it was really, I loved it. And I don't know, I didn't look up reviews. I didn't look up how it was received. So this is just purely my experience with the movie. I had a really good time, and I actually thought it was exploration done right. Like I didn't get any more, like you've only ever seen this world on screen through the lens of these characters that you've known for all of these years, especially if you grew up with the books and you worked your way into the movies and you got through all the movies. Now you're seeing it from a different side, and they built it up so much. You know that there's this gigantic world, and I feel like it's a playground that they're in right now, and they're kind of just messing around with it. And I really liked it.
Part of it is I've seen extended clips and I've seen like the trailers, whatever. I don't really like the main cast. Like as far as like the way that they fit together, I feel like there's no chemistry in the main cast.
Interesting. I didn't feel that way watching it. I wonder if maybe it was. I'd be curious for you to watch it and to report back on how you feel afterwards.
Yeah,
because it could also be just the marketing material could have been sour, because I know that when I didn't see it in theaters. So I wasn't super interested or like super thrilled to go see it right off the bat. This was one of the movies, like it came up on HBO or something, and I watched it when it was on, and I was like, I'm really enjoying this. And like, but when the night was over, I was like, good night. I love when that happens with a random movie that I haven't been expecting to enjoy. But I'm curious if you'll how you would feel after you watched it. So you have homework. We'll check back in after you've seen it, because I'm very curious. But anyway, the sequel's coming out, and I'm excited for it now that I saw the first one. I'm like, oh, cool! I get to go back into the world. Great! I'm thrilled. Especially, I started reading the books again, so I'm like, oh, like I'm all in it right now. So it's like very exciting. One thing that was really funny to me though, I remember reading the books originally, and I had very vivid pictures in my head of what these characters looked like. I don't remember what those pictures were because there's actual faces to put to the names now, which is really funny.
The thing is, the three main, characters, they did a really great job of casting them.
Mm-hmm.
With the exception of Emma Watson being too hot for Hermione. But when they cast her at 11 years old, I'm pretty sure they didn't realize that's what was going to happen.
Right, gotcha. Okay. I don't remember being, confused by, the character choices. I know that there was a time, because it was, what was I 3 or 4 books in before the movies came out? I don't remember.
Probably 3.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Prisoner of Azkaban, and then the first movie came out.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I just I know that for a fact, because I was so into it that I remember, I had a vision of what these people looked like, and I can't for the life of me remember what that was, which is really funny to me.
No, I remember as a kid seeing them. I was like, wow, they look how I expected them to look,
Yeah. I guess I also the 3 main characters. I had an idea. The picture for me came from the cover of the book for them, and then everybody else kind of just fell in based on their descriptions.
But that's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Even on the cover of the book, those kids look like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. Anyway, I'm excited to see this one when it comes out. So maybe we could do this. This is November. It's plenty of time. Maybe you can see the first one, and we can do an episode on both together and talk through it. If you like it. If you hate it, we'll just check in at some point throughout.
I'll get around to it.
Yeah. No rush. I said November. November it comes out. By then you can decide whether or not you want to see it. All right. So Ready Player One took a complete 180 on the sources that I normally read from.
What do you mean?
So I have those a Flipboard magazine, like I told you, where I pull in a bunch of stuff for movie news that I usually go through, and then I pull out stuff from there and put it into the Flix magazine, so that I actually think that you can access it. I haven't checked to see if I have to do anything special to make it public, but if you want to see the stories that we refer to, or that I refer to specifically, there is a Flix magazine, FLI6, and
nice.
Those are the stories. But as we brought up last week, there was some stuff that I was reading that was making me a little bit annoyed, but people were already hating the movie before it even came out, before it was even screened, all this stuff. Right after the first screening of it, I saw a lot of posts and articles about, screening goes terrible, right? But it was a technical difficulty, not the screening itself. And then I hear the reports of folks that have watched it that really enjoyed it and were impressed by what he had done with it. And that excited me. And then I stopped because I don't want any more outside information about this movie. I just want to go and see it and enjoy it for myself. And I read the last thing that I listened to was the review they did on IGN. And there was a little...
I read that one tonight.
Yeah, there were some complaints about the real world part of it, which is not
surprising.
What'd you say?
Not surprising. If something's going to get left behind, it's going to be that.
It's not surprising, but it's also not super in focus on the book either. It's not the point. They do give you enough for you to understand why things are like this, but I guess more of the technical reason on how people are all these people are able to be in this virtual world, but it's not super important to the story, I feel like.
Okay.
But that
I read
said,
that review as well. It seemed to be mostly pretty positive. Said that the movie was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It did bring up some of the things about how some of the stuff is a little too much with the whole references and this and that.
Right.
Although in this case, it was still relatively complimentary of all that.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'm thrilled. I can't wait to see this. So, but what that was the last. This is the last thing I had on here on my list. So we can jump into Al's Nuggets because I know Nuggets has something.
We have 2 more things on this topic first.
Okay, well, but they're part of your Nuggets.
No, this is part of the discussion of Ready Player
Okay.
One. One of them will be a not so flattering review of the movie, or at least a section of it.
Is this the one you shared with me earlier?
This is the one I shared with you earlier.
Okay.
A clip from a review of this movie.
Where's it from?
I believe it was on IO9.
Okay.
Because what I sent to you was what I saw. Someone clipped it, said this is from the review on, I think it was IO9. And I think they attributed the author. I don't remember who it was. It was a few days ago, so I don't really care. Like a rude orgy participant, Ready Player One insistently rubs itself on you in ways that it thinks will turn you on, whispering, "Talk dirty to me," into your ear constantly, and with increasing insistence. Depending on your kink, the frottage will work at times, but the movie drags when the nostalgia stops for one of its obligatory refractory periods. And, just like a real orgy, Ready Player One is inevitably going to send someone home unsatisfied and depressed.
Okay. This person has had some stuff happen in their life. That's
do you recall what I said to you after we briefly discussed that text?
Uh-huh.
Because you were like, "Oh, that was funny," but like I made mostly positive reviews, and I was like, "I haven't read any at the time. I just saw this, forwarded it, since it was kind of similar to the sentiment that I was trying to describe in last week's episode,
just in a different words."
With the added comedic value of a possible orgy humble brag.
Oh my god. That's funny to me, like really funny. And I just feel like I'm not expecting everybody to like this movie.
It seems pretty obvious that everyone won't.
Right.
Or at least there'll be very varying degrees on how much everyone likes it.
So let's go with this. Even with some of the negative feedback that's coming, I am extremely excited to see this, and I'm gonna be very positive going in. And the bar is pretty high for me because I really loved the book. It hit near and dear. So I feel like I will have some decent feedback for folks that are in my boat.
See, I wouldn't say that I'm super excited. I'm curious to see how it all shakes out. There's enough here that I should be nearly as interested and excited as you, less the fact that I didn't read the book, unlike you.
Sure.
But just the general idea of it should be what would generally appeal to me. So
agreed.
I'm not going to go into it looking to dislike it, but I'm also not super excited for it either. I feel like I'm going in relatively neutral, which probably is for the best.
I think so. There's a very real chance that you could like it more than me because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help myself right now because from the minute that I heard that this movie was being made, I was like in a frenzy. So,
so the other thing I wanted to talk about with all of this was I was having a hard time, if you remember last week, there was parts of what I was trying to convey to you about stuff I read that I was just having a hard time putting into words. And I saw something flash up on my Twitter timeline today that I realized that I've read once about a year or so ago. And then I kind of remembered why some of this conversation around the people who dislike it as like the idea of this movie. And there's a pretty loud and not small group of people who really don't like Ernest Cline.
Why is that?
And this is one of the reasons. I cannot verify.
Am I going to be annoyed by this reason?
Well, it'll be up to you after I read this. You'll have to bear with me because it's a little bit lengthy.
Okay.
I think, depending on how angry the overall thing makes you, there's potential for you to laugh some too.
Okay. All right. Go for it.
It is funny on the surface. So I can't verify 100% whether this is true or not. So apparently before Ernest Cline broke in as an actual author, he wrote a lot of poetry. And something has been making the rounds for a little less than a year now. One of the poems that allegedly he wrote.
Okay.
It's called Nerd Porn Auteur. I've noticed that there don't seem to be any porno movies that are made for guys like me. All the porn I've come across was targeted at beer-swilling, sports bar-dwelling alpha males. Men who like their women stupid and submissive. Men who can only get it up for monosyllabic cock-hungry nymphos.
Oh my God.
With gargantuan breasts and a 3-word vocabulary.
Jesus.
Adult film films are populated with these collagen-injected, liposuctioned women, many of whom have resorted to surgery and self-mutilation in an attempt to look the way they've been told to look. These aren't real women, they're objects. And these movies aren't erotic, they're pathetic. These vacuum-headed fuck bunnies don't turn me on.
Oh my god.
They disgust me, and it's not that I'm against pornography. I mean, I'm a guy, and guys need porn. Fact. Like a preacher needs pain, like a needle needs a vein, guys need porn. But I don't want to watch this misogynist He-Man women-hater porn. I want porno movies that are made with guys like me in mind. Guys who know that the sexiest thing in the world is a woman who's smarter than you are. You can have the whole cheerleading squad. I want the girl in the tweed skirt and the horn-rimmed glasses. Betty Finabowski, the valedictorian. Oh, yes. First, I want to copy her trig homework. Then I want to make mad, passionate love to her for hours and hours. Until she reluctantly asks if we can stop because she doesn't want to miss Battlestar Galactica. Summa cum laude, baby. That's what I call erotic.
Oh my god.
But do you ever see that kind of a woman in a contemporary adult film? No. Which is why I'm going to start writing and directing geek porn. I'll be the quintessential nerd porn auteur. And the women in my porno movies will be the kind that drive nerds like me mad with desire. I'm talking about the girls that used to fuck up the grading curve. The girls in the Latin club. Sorry, Anthony almost just did a spit take and he made me lose control there too. The girls in the Latin club and the National Honor Society. Chicks with weird clothes, braces. Wait, we might be losing our co-host.
Sorry. Oh my god, that one was really funny. Go on.
Chicks with weird clothes, braces, 4 eyes, and a 4.0 GPA. Brainy, articulate bookworms with Mensa cards in their purses and chips on their shoulders. My porn starlets will come in all shapes and sizes. My porn starlets will be too busy working on their PhD to go to the gym.
Oh my god. That is so funny.
Like it because I'm inclined to believe it was him, but even the people who posted it...
Are you earnest inclined to believe it was him?
Yes. Even some of the people who've shared it have said, listen, I don't know if this actually was him or not. Mm-hmm. Because it's allegedly from a time before he actually was published.
So here's the thing. I don't care. Even if that's from him, great. Here's the thing. He made a movie that he wants to... Or not a movie, sorry. He wrote a book that he wants to read. In the same vein, Kevin Smith makes movies that he wants to see. And I like where these guys are coming from. So great. It's stop. Just, if it's not for you, it's not for you. You don't have to keep harping on it. And I feel like the internet is obviously we know this. It's so negative all the time. It's just get over it. It's not for you. Just get out of here. Nobody wants you here.
Well, so that's the thing is people don't like that lack of inclusivity of it. They don't like some of the undercurrents from something like that poem, and they don't like that the staunchest, and I'm not talking about you, but some of the staunchest adherents to Klein and his writing fit that same mold that's kind of problematic as this faux feminist type of thing. I'm just telling you what I hear people say. I'm not saying what I think or not, because I still don't even know 100% sure whether he wrote this thing. Right. It could be someone emulating his style, trying to make a joke about it, considering he used to write poetry. But I'm just telling you where this hotbed of people having problems with it are coming from. And even to Kevin Smith, I mean, try as he might, he's not been perfect, and he's part of a product of his environment. I actually rewatched Chasing Amy this weekend. Mm-hmm. My least favorite of the Viewisk universe, and that movie's problematic. It was made 20 years ago. It doesn't hold up in a lot of the ways they talk about gays. The Jason Lee character is a homophobe. He's not a great dude.
Yep.
But I mean, ultimately, I think you'd say Kevin Smith wasn't trying to put down gays, especially considering they try and give a three-dimensional portrayal of gays in that movie, considering they weren't treated super well. It's at the same time that Friends used to do a lot of homophobic shit too, but people mostly seem to sweep that under the rug as well. But there's going to be people who are going to have problems with that regardless. People have problems with Blazing Saddles and say it's a racist movie, even though Mel Brooks made the movie with the sole intention of skewering racism.
Right.
And some people don't see the nuance in that, and I'd say that even though that movie was like 40 years ago, that did a better job than something like Chasing Amy did with as far as representation goes. And no one's perfect as well. But intent matters. Some people place a different value on it than others, but it matters.
Sure. Here, I think I'm trying to pinpoint what my problem is with all of this. And that is...
It's going to be hard to pinpoint it because it's a complex, multifaceted issue.
But my problem, it's not... Sure, when you talk about the topics that are being covered, I feel that way. But like, as a whole, movies, especially these movies that we're talking about, Kevin Smith movies, Ready Player One, these movies are purely for entertainment purposes. You're supposed to go to see the movie and have a good time. If the movie's not for you, it's not for you.
Yeah.
What the hell happened here? Oh, sorry, my headphones half came out, and I only heard myself in one ear, and it was very concerning. But
yeah, I can see how that'd be a problem.
It's just to write to write a scathing review or like to just be really just down on it. Like I just don't get it because I don't have that in me. Like if I didn't like something, I would just be like, okay, and I would walk away from it.
Yeah.
I think that's my problem's probably more existential than like whatever their problem is with the movie. It's just like I don't get that mindset where if you hate something, you have to be super vocal about it. You just let it go. Like that's my personality.
You touched on it right there. I think without even fully realizing it, the problem is existential, just not in the way that you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
People have a problem with this guy and where he fits in a sometimes problematic culture, and thus people are imprinting that issue on his product, right? Mm-hmm. It's the whole conversation that's been going on for quite some time now about whether or not you can separate the artist from the art.
Yeah, and I also, if we take a second to step even further back, you can also call me hypocritical because I am harping on this.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is kind of funny. But I'm also, the reason why I am doing that is I'm not because I'm mad at these people. I'm a little bit defensive over the person that is trying to make something out of something that they like. And I don't ever want something like that to be stopped.
I get it. But the thing is, I think if this movie came out 10 years ago, we would have never heard anything about it. In the negative. Mm-hmm. It's a different time.
That's true. The movie would have come out in May. It would have been a blockbuster, like crap load of money raked in. That would have been the movie that I went to see on my birthday with all my friends in grade school. Like, and everybody else would have done that.
Pre-social media. It was a time before anyone could basically run a background check on people. So no one would have known about this guy's possibly funky proclivities. Sure. And internet culture hadn't turned into this cesspool yet. So it would have been a different experience at a different time. Yeah.
No, that's true.
For better or worse.
Very interesting. It's a really cool point of view. Anyway.
Moving on.
I'm excited. That is all. Any more nuggets?
Well, yes, I have my Al's Nuggets, as supposedly we're calling it.
We need a transition theme for me to edit in right here.
What would that theme be?
I don't know. I have to write it. Some sort of musical cue that just brings us into Al's Nuggets. Sorry, it's so much fun.
Considering you didn't run by me whether or not we were going to just call this Al's Nuggets, you will wait for my seal of approval on whatever the theme is.
That's adorable. You think you have control over that? You'll never know. You won't know until it's live because that's when you would hear it. Because I'm not going to do it here.
Set, sir. I will walk off set in indignation.
You can't. It'll already have been live. You'll never know. After
that
for the next episode?
Boom.
Oh my god. Go on with your nuggets.
Garland Sundays.
Garland Sundays.
So I know it's going to come out weird with when we're releasing these episodes, but as far as from us, our perspective recording it, last Sunday, me and Anthony saw Annihilation. Written and directed by Alex Garland.
Yeah.
Well, a couple days ago,
Step into this time machine.
a week later, I sat down with my brother and sister who had never seen Ex Machina, and I corrected that wrong in the universe. After some pretty entertaining stuff, I like to torture my sister with this. I've been trying to tell her for the last couple of years that I'm trying to make her a better person. Unfortunately, she kind of falls into certain stereotypes as far as teenage girls with their likes and such. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to broaden her perspective on some stuff. So I started making her watch good things. And my success rate has been 100%, despite how much of a fight she's put up a big fight on all of these things. It started with Cloud Atlas, and she loved it.
Nice.
And if that was, I mean, that's a tough movie to just get into. You know, I had to drag her kicking and screaming to watch The Matrix. She bitched and moaned the whole time we were watching it. But you want to know what happened? When Neo gets shot at the end, she gasped. She totally bought into it, even though she was complaining the whole time.
Right.
Although I still haven't got her to sit down and watch the second and third one yet.
Not a crime against humanity. Go on.
I actually really like those movies.
I enjoy them too, but they're not.
I know that's an unpopular opinion with a lot of people who are big fans of The Matrix, but grow up, people.
I will say I enjoy them. They're nowhere near the caliber of the first one.
That's fine, but I
do enjoy them. I will talk about them positively like that. I'll watch them again. I own them probably 3 times. That's the thing with the VHS and then the DVD and then the Blu-ray. It's just a whole mess. Go on.
So there's been a couple things I've had her watch, but it's been a while since I've made her sit down and watch something with me. But she's back on spring break from school, so I was like, okay, you're going to sit down and watch a movie with me. Because I had just gotten Ex Machina in the mail on Friday. She got back
Thursday. Great day to open up a package.
Tremendous day. So Friday, I was getting ready to go to work, and I was like, hey, Sunday, if you're not doing anything, I'm going to watch a movie with me. And she's like, what movie? I was like, I'm not telling you.
Nice.
And she got mad because I knew she was going to when I did that. If I just told her, she's probably going to look it up and spoil it for herself, or she's going to be, I don't want to watch it, it sounds stupid, this and that. Also, I just enjoy torturing her with that. So we went through this whole thing, and she's like, oh, well, why don't you tell me what it is? I was like, don't worry about it, you'll like it. She's like, no, I won't. I was like, have I ever led you astray before? And, she racked her brain for a couple minutes, and then, no. And so then she's like, okay, tell me. I was like, I will give you some hints that aren't really going to be that helpful, but you may actually be able to figure it out eventually. So the first hint I gave her, as I was walking out the door to work Friday, was it stars 2 people who are in Star Wars movies together. Which, there's a million people who've been in Star Wars movies. Right. So I see her Saturday afternoon, because I think she was up late Friday. Well, did you figure out what movie we're watching? No, there's so many people in Star Wars. Okay, fine, I'll help you narrow it down. 2 people in 2 of the 3 new Star Wars movies. She's like, what? I was like, there's been 3 new Star Wars movies in the last couple of years. 2 people who are in the same movie. 2 of them, the 3 that have been released. I'm gone for a little bit. I come back. She goes, is it that movie about Stephen Hawking? I said, nope. That's wrong Star Wars movie. She was in Rogue One. It's not Rogue One. It's episode 7 and 8. Okay, fine. So I see her Sunday morning. You figure out that movie yet? I spent an hour, and I have no idea what movie it is. I was like, what were you doing? Like, if you spent an hour, you definitely should have figured it out by now. Because all you got to do is go on IMDb, click on each actor, see the movies they're in, click on another actor, and see if any of the movies overlap.
I like the approach of trying to Google that. Like what did you, 2 actors in Star Wars and
she,
other
went,
movie.
In the voice, she went to I'm pretty sure she asked Siri. It was like, what movie were two people who were in a Star Wars movie also in, or something like that.
Right.
She's like, I was reading these obscure articles and interviews to see if someone would casually mention it. I was like, you do this entirely the wrong way.
That would be great though if she stumbled upon another movie that we both need to watch. That would have been the icing on the cake.
That's true too. So I mean, eventually, I was like trying to narrow it down because like there's a couple of things I could have given her as hints that she would have figured out in like 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, there's like literally 3.5 people in this movie. Like, she's like, how's that gonna help me? I was like, click on an actor, see what movies they're in. And I gave her one more hint. I don't remember what it was. And eventually she figured it out. She's like, oh, this looks dumb. I was like, see, there you go. It's like, you're going to sit down and watch the fucking movie. She loved it.
That's great. I mean,
it surprised me more, though, that she sat through all of Dread. I didn't think she was going to like that one as much. And, I don't think she liked it as much. But the thing was, we started watching it. Then all of us went and sat down to dinner, had family dinner. And then me and my brother went downstairs to watch the rest of the movie. We were only about 20 minutes in, and she didn't really seem to be paying attention. And she's like, wait, don't start without me. And I was like, good for you.
Yeah. You made me so proud.
Yeah. No, I was proud.
That's awesome.
So we'll do an episode soon on Ex Machina, probably, right?
Yeah. I'll have to rewatch it.
That's definitely lends itself more to an episode than Dread does.
Yeah, agreed. I'll just have to rewatch it. And that movie, definitely. Oh, man, is that movie good. Yeah. So, no, not burying the lead there. We're gonna talk very positively about that movie when that episode comes around.
Big time. It's funny rewatching it. I remember seeing Annihilation, and I was like, "This is Ex Machina on steroids." But admittedly, the last time I saw Ex Machina was like literally the week it was released, which is a couple of years ago, and I have not seen it since then. Yeah. And now having rewatched this, I can confirm that it's Ex Machina on steroids.
Yeah, so back when we were living in the apartments, that was like probably like a year and a half, 2 years ago, right? That's wow.
I think the movie came out in, was it early 2014 or early 2015?
Maybe. That sounds right.
I remember I was talking to you about it for a while before it came out. Like,
I'm pretty sure I picked it up like a couple of months after it came out on Blu-ray, and that's when I saw it.
Yeah. That's probably right. Yeah, because I don't think you actually saw it when it came out. I know I didn't.
No, I didn't. I definitely didn't see it in theaters.
Yeah, April of 2015, so 3 years ago.
Wow, damn. Solid flick. Any more nuggets for us?
No, that's the extent of the nuggets.
I'll add one more nugget from me. Movie Pass check-in.
Oh.
I went to a different theater to see Black Panther than I normally go to, and Movie Pass still works. Now, here's the question: was it? I mean, it's worth it because I'm already paying. I'm paying the $10 a month, right? So it's totally worth it to use it. However, this movie theater only charges $6 for tickets, and that's pretty great.
Nice.
So, but Movie Pass still good. So our flick of the week, Black Panther. Finally, after weeks of saying at some point we're going to do this movie when I get to see it, I saw it last night, and
Perfect.
Drumroll, please. Loved it. It was solid. It was, I mean,
very good.
I know, like, we had shared some thoughts a little bit, like you had shared some of your thoughts with me earlier. I don't know. I'm not about to jump in and be like, yeah, it's the best Marvel movie made. No, that's not. I'm fairly certain it won't land there, but I haven't thought back on that.
Yeah, I think ultimately my take is the same. It's definitely been overhyped as far as the quality of the movie itself. As far as where it ranks amongst the Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it just shoots right to the top of them. But obviously, as far as its achievement from the perspective of making a movie and being successful with it, historic.
Yeah, it's really well done. And like, there's.
I mean, it went over $1 billion worldwide now. It is an incredible achievement.
I think the key is that it strays from the formula a little bit more than the other movies, and where like it stands on its own. Like,
yes.
Like this movie can be by itself and doesn't matter. Like, it does not have to tie into any other movie. It does. The references are there, but they're just there for your fun because you've seen all the other ones. But it stands alone, and that's really good. And I think what's really important about that, and like the reason why it works so well, is Marvel. It starts off with more of the the references and the things that tie it to the rest of the universe. Like Marvel holds your hand into the movie. It's almost as if you're riding a bike without training wheels for the first time, and then they let you go.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, a third of the way through the movie, and it starts to okay, cool. You like this guy? Great. Okay, let's just let you go with this and explore his story. It's a lot of fun. We'll see on the other side.
to like broaden that analogy, because I think it's apt in a lot more ways than just that. In the same way that like the way it works when you start that first ride without the training wheels is, where you kind of get it and you're riding, but you're also wobbling and you might crash still because you haven't figured out the brakes 100%. There's still some glitches in this. Sure. Because it's weirdly both an origin movie and also not an origin movie at all.
I liked that, but go on.
I do like it because it's kind of unique in that way. Mm-hmm. But there are some seams in the movie that you can see where it's kind of transitioning between, hey, we're an origin movie to, hey, we're not an origin movie.
Right. It's almost like you kind of get I think it's like within the first 15 minutes of the movie, you get the quick origin. You understand the concept. You understand where these people come from. You understand who the Black Panther is. You understand like that it's a thing that gets passed down. And then that's that.
And then you transition to we don't have to find out for the first 2/3 of the movie how he earned his powers and why he is the way he is. This is an established character who we've met before, who we know is powerful, who we know is important, we know why he's important, and he's going to go do hero things, not figure out that he is a hero. Right,
and here's the really funny thing. To bash DCEU like one more time, we brought this character in at the midway point of his story, or at least closer to the middle of his story, and then we jumped back. But then we jumped forward. Like, they did it right. Like, they introduced the character without the origin in Civil War. He's intriguing. He's interesting. He's there. That's cool. I like to see where this goes. And then in this movie, you get a little bit before and you get a little bit after, and it's just really well done.
Whereas, basically a more streamlined version of Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, Wonder Woman also worked, but unfortunately it was surrounded by garbage.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't mean that to put Wonder Woman down, but I do think it took too much the path of an origin story.
Yeah.
That's really, honestly, other than the CGI fuckfest at the end of the movie, it's really the only thing that holds it back from, which and it's still a very good movie even in its own right. Mm-hmm. This movie does a better job of casting those shackles off, but that it seems unlikely that Aquaman is going to do the same thing.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. Like I said this to you before we started, but like I can't wait to buy this movie. And that's a thing that it happened. I buy a lot of movies. I buy movies that I buy a lot of movies that I kind of like and not even love. That's just but there's times where like I buy a movie and there's times where I pre-order a movie and I'm excited for the first day that it comes out on now it's UHD Blu-ray discs for me. But when that happens, I get really excited. I'll get it that day and I'll probably watch it at some point that day or the next day. Like get the drink and the snack and like just like sit down and really enjoy it, And like this one will probably be another one of those. The last one wasn't actually that long ago. It just happened. It was Thor Ragnarok. I just picked it up the day it came out, and I freaking man, do I love that movie! It is so good.
Sure is.
That is certainly up there on the list as well. But this movie is it's funny because like that movie's really good because it's funny. And it figures out what to do with this character that they've been stumbling with for a few years. And it's just it's almost like the coming of age story for Thor. It's just like really, really good. But then there's this movie, which is this is a good film in a lot of ways. Like there's cool storytelling. There's a really interesting plot concept, which is, it's nothing super unique, but the way that it's handled, I really liked. I don't want to say too much with that before we get into spoilers. I will get into that later. But it's a different emotion that I get from this movie. But I did really enjoy it, and it's going to have the same effect. The next movie that's on that list is Episode 8 comes out, I think, for me next week. So that'll be
It's coming out pretty soon. I'll have to get that and watch it a few more times again already.
A few hundred more times, yeah.
What is it?
A few hundred more times.
Oh, a few hundred more times. Whoa.
The pacing of this movie. Thoughts?
Of Black Panther?
Yeah.
Mostly pretty good.
I thought it was solid.
Yeah.
All the way through, because there was with movies like this, there's times where you need a lull. You need to set, like, they started off classic Marvel style. You get a lot of action up front, like a little bit of story, a lot of action, like kind of really that interesting intro that they like to do.
Well, actually, it's funny. They also broke from the mold of the start of Marvel movies, because this is the first ever Marvel movie that had a prologue. I actually liked that.
Yeah. No, it was good. I think the pacing overall is really, there's like maybe 2 times where it lulls, but it's not enough to be frustrating.
No, they also did a good job of pausing for the right amount of time. There was a couple times where they could have tightened it just a little bit, but nothing offensive. Yeah.
There's one scene, again, we'll get into this part when there's spoilers, I'll get into specifics, but there is a scene where it stops and it's like it slows down, you're like, but you find out later on, it's like, pay attention to what's happening here because this is going to come back into play.
Actually, wait a minute. This movie had 2 prologues.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's fair.
I just realized that now because I was thinking about, and I thought it was unique that, because every other Marvel movie has started with whatever the current version of the Marvel thing is. Sometimes it was just the flipping comic book pages. Now they do that big thing where it's all the characters that they're showing from all the different movies.
Yep.
But before any of that, this is the first time they ever did something prior to that whole opening, and it was the prologue of the history of Wakanda and how they got the vibranium and all that sort of stuff. With that cool, like, it reminded me of like those. Remember as a little kid, those little iron filings with the magnet.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. Is it kept like popping up into new shapes to show whatever depict. Whatever
that was really cool. I liked that.
I really liked that they like, okay, let's do something different to start off the movie, and let's do it in a different way. And also, we need to give you a little bit of an exposition dump without boring you. So we'll do this new thing you got to focus on, and it only lasts like 2-3 minutes, so kind of perfect length. Then they do their Marvel opening thing, and then we get another prologue to the story of like actual movie stuff. It's not that little artistic thing anymore. Now it's actual movie. It's a flashback to 20 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's really good. There's the tech in the movie, like the tech and the tech ideas throughout the movie are awesome, and we'll get into that with the spoiler-free zone. But that's something really cool.
I definitely noted that as well. I thought that there was some really cool technology they got into in this.
But overall, if you haven't seen this movie, go see it. If you're listening to this, this movie is right up your alley. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Is there anything that you want to touch on before we get into we just lift the veil so that we don't have to worry about it?
Not really. I mean, the rest of it is all kind of specific stuff. So
cool. So that's it. Spoilers from here on out. There's a really cool thing. So you mentioned the double prologues. It's really funny because I knew Forrest Whitaker was in this movie, and what the kids got the young, which we find out is the younger version of him in the story. He's got a little something going on with his eye, and I'm wondering at that point if that's him. And the fact that I'm right, I'm like, it's Forrest Whitaker's eye.
The funny thing is, I actually forgot Forrest Whitaker was going to be in this movie, and I remember taking note of that guy having the messed up eye, but at this point, not remembering that Forrest Whitaker was going to be in the movie.
That's really funny.
But then when I saw Forrest Whitaker, I still didn't immediately make the connection.
Right.
A little later, like as he was talking again, I was like, "Oh, that's supposed to be him. That makes sense." I don't know why I didn't put 2 and 2 together earlier in the movie. Now it was before the big reveals later on with who Killmonger is and everything like that, and where he recognizes that that's who that was. But yeah, no, it took me longer to remember and like make that connection. I don't know why. I should have, the second I saw Forrest Whitaker, remembered that that's who that was supposed to be.
Yeah, that was really funny to me. That like I picked that up because like I enjoy Forrest Whitaker and the things that he's in, but that is obviously like
he was kind of in some ways playing a slightly tamer version of his character from Rogue One.
Yeah, same voice and everything in some parts.
Like, the ridiculous like mannerisms and like the weird voice and stuff. Like although he gave it like a more like native African like tilt to his accent, but the voice itself was very similar.
It's kind of funny because this is a thing that happens in Marvel movies. Like we were back in time, and then in every character that they focused frame on that person's face was somebody relevant for later on in the movie. Like you have to. I mean, I'm accustomed to this. I knew that was going to be the case for every character that they did, so it wasn't too much of a shock to me. But I can see that if you're not paying attention, like when you're watching the movie, like that being like a really cool reveal, like for all of these characters in the end. Mainly the people that were sitting 2 rows in front to the right of me that were just talking it up, and like just why are you here? Sorry for this little rant, but just leave the theater. Like I don't want you here. And I paid to be here too. Get out of the theater. Anyway, but like
considering you wrote an entire screed in an article about me having my phone on the lowest possible brightness setting. Yeah, I can see how you'd respond to a bunch of people who are just carrying on having a conversation, not watching the movie.
Yeah, equally savage. So again, like they focus on the little kid's face, like he's front and center. Like, okay, this guy's somebody, and then they focused on like these characters are not just one-offs. Like they're gonna be relevant at some point. So we already know that. It's not surprising. The way that it all folds and comes together is really, really nicely done. But that being said, the brother of T'Chaka, the one that he kills. Now, this is a funny thing. There's a lot of big names in the movie, and it's just no holds bars with introducing a big name actor and then just killing him. Like there's a lot of them in this movie. I think that I've got 3 listed down here.
Wait, who died?
Yeah.
Well, the first one was that character in Jobu, Sterling K. Brown.
Right. Who, I mean, I don't know if you watch This Is Us, but I love Randall. I love Randall to death. So this, even though I knew, like, this one, it's not that character, but it made me sad to see him go. I was devastated. But anyway, so that's one. That's a big name in my opinion. And they took him out, and they took him out pretty quick.
In the prologue.
Yep. The first prologue. Oh, second one. Sorry, you're right. And then the second one would be, well, I'll get to the one in chronological order. I'll get to the second one last. But then Forrest Whitaker also just.
Oh, okay. Sorry, the way you framed it at first, I thought you meant like people who like had very short screen time.
Oh, no.
He'd been in several scenes before he got. Okay, yeah.
No, I mean for a Marvel movie, it's technically a short screen time because most Marvel movies end up having more than one. So, like, you would think that, okay, so big names, these characters will probably carry over in some way or another. But no, they off a lot of these people right away. So, Forrest Whitaker, done. Now, the most upsetting one to me was Andy Serkis because...
Yeah, because they finally let him be Andy Serkis in this movie.
And what a villain was he.
I know. I expected him to continue on in this universe. I was genuinely upset he's not going to be around.
He is to the Marvel universe as Heath Ledger was to... the DC universe.
Except having even more fun.
He was having a blast, and so was I watching him.
I know, that's why I wanted more of him. Man. I was having fun because he was having fun.
It was so good, and it was just like when it's over, I'm like, it's such a weird thing. I rooted like similar to the Joker. Like I loved every minute he was on the screen, and I was like, oh, this guy is so compelling. Like I can't wait to see what happens next with this bizarre, bonkers, just out of control character who is just literally just doesn't. He's high on life. And the adrenaline that's pumping through him from doing all these crazy things. But he's I was just like, what is going to happen next when he gets shot? I was like, no, wait, that's a bad guy. I shouldn't feel this way.
Well, the thing is, they definitely set it up in that scene. Like I was like, they're going to kill him off, aren't they? Please don't do that.
Yeah,
and then they do, and I was like, I can't believe you guys fucking did that.
He is. I'll have to reconsider this and go through and think about all the villains in all of the Marvel movies so far. But if you were to ask me today who was the best villain in a Marvel movie, it was him.
Well, this one has two. This one has two of the best ones.
I agree because
and both of them were given short shrift. Both of them should have survived this movie.
Both of them what?
Both of them should have survived this
movie.
You
think so?
Yeah, because they've been two of the best ones.
Yeah.
And the only one who maybe is better than them is Loki, and he's still around.
What a character that Loki is.
Exactly.
But just he crushes it. And like you said, like I almost it's really funny because he is like over the top in his scenes. And it's almost like
he definitely toes the line. Like he gets pretty close to going too much a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because like one of the best ones, even though it's also possibly the most ridiculous, is when he makes the joke about having a mixtape coming out.
Yes. Oh my god. That was amazing. Also, and then they have the car chase scene afterwards, and he's like, "Let's put some music on. Like, what's going on here? Like, this is let's have some fun." But oh man, does he deliver in this movie? So good. And that the arm cannon thing that he has,
pretty badass.
Pretty cool concept.
Also, I think we'd be remiss if we move off the topic of Andy Serkis if we didn't mention the fact that it's kind of hysterical that Andy Serkis and Martin Freeman got to have a close-up scene sitting down in that interrogation room, and I'm just like, we've done this before. It's going to be kind of funny. Those two guys probably had to laugh a bit. Oh, I guess we're back here again, like right. Gollum and Bilbo, Ross and what's Claw,
yep.
Like they're just sitting there, like they kind of like role reversed from their like moves in like The Hobbit, where like Gollum seemed like he had the upper hand for most of their scene together in the first Hobbit movie, and in this case, Ross has because Claw's lost his arm and is tied up now.
Yep. But just if he's like, there's definitely a time like during shooting, I really hope there's a blooper reel where he just was talking to him and then just went. Which would have been great to see. Like if they did that in one of the post-credit scenes. But oh man, what a cool character! I'm sad to see him go.
Me too.
Because he was great. I really want to see him being him in more movies.
Rest in peace, Ulysses Claw.
Yeah, rest in peace indeed. Moving on, there's a couple of cool things I want to touch on here. So. There's these really cool, very clean lines between locales in the movie. So, like, there's Wakanda, right? And it's super interesting because there's this technological advancement in a vacuum, right? So, like, there's this tribe because they've been had access to this for a very, very long time. And they've kept it secret. So they've developed with this vibranium, and they've gotten smarter, and they've built these crazy ass tools and stuff. But they held on to their traditions. And I think if you think about it, it probably makes a lot of sense that they were able to do that because they secluded themselves, right? So when you're in Wakanda and you get these really awesome scenes where you're in the streets and there's like these beautiful like basket art and things like that being sold on the streets, but then at the same time everybody's got these watches that have hologram like video calling going. Like it's just such a really cool aesthetic.
They were basically the Omni tools for Mass Effect.
Yeah, and it was awesome. I really like that because there was just something really cool about it because it was very interesting because if you think about it and you think, okay, what would happen if you took a small society and you like threw them forward hundreds of years with advanced technology that nobody else has. So if they developed faster than anybody else, so there's still certain traditions that stuck with them. That's just a really cool concept to me.
Yeah.
I really like it.
It was an interesting blending of the old versus the new, or the old with the new, I guess.
Because you get like I said, you get the town, but then you also get their home base kind of area, or obviously we know from the skyline, there's other gigantic buildings. It's not, and nobody's living in poverty. They're just living by traditions.
No one's living in poverty, even though they're pretending that everyone's living in poverty.
Right, which is also a really funny thing. But
I also love that even really he says it like early in the movie when he's flying back, and he says, "No matter how many times I do this, I always love this part." As they get ready to fly through the hologram and see how badass everything is.
So cool. So that's one. Like you get like this mysticism about that area. Like this is let me like really think about this place for a while. Like I'd love to get lost in this world for a little bit because it's a really cool thing. Then you get the Korea locale and the set piece that they have there, where you have this bananas casino, which is just very reminiscent of like Rush Hour but on steroids. And then you have the street chases and the tight streets and the crazy cars and like the beautiful lights and the neon, and it's very like there's like a Tokyo Drift aspect to it, like that color palette type thing, and like that was really cool. And then you have London, and in the London scenes, that is like the just modern everyday Marvel time frame London.
Yeah,
and like to have those three different areas in one movie, it's really cool. Like you're jumping through them, and it's
also we had 20 years ago and present day Oakland, right?
Yeah. Oh, right, of course. But like that kind of fell into the similar vibe of the this is the more like standard look that we expect.
Yeah.
Which I think is important, and then you get it kind of makes the other ones shine a little bit more, which is really cool. So it was just really fun to be in this movie and jump between these places and get just these crazy different aesthetics in the same storyline.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed that.
And also the transition between them felt natural too. It didn't feel like we were getting like our head whipped around, like jumping back and forth. And like we spent just the right amount of time in each one. Like it didn't feel like we overstayed our welcome from our non-Wakanda based scenery. But we spent enough time that it felt lived in, kind of like it felt like a part of like the real regular world.
Right, and it's funny because I wonder. We talk about that opening scene with the like almost like the metal shavings, like you were talking about, where like they show you the storyline of the origin through this tech that you find out later is something that they use. But you learn it through that, so it almost makes it easier to make those transitions.
Yeah,
and like it's subtle, and I don't know if it's intentional, but it definitely works. If that's the case.
Okay.
I think that's really cool. There's another piece of this. So I was thinking about like all these different scenes, and like I had mentioned, the Korea one reminded me of like the color palette for like Tokyo Drift or something like that, with like the crazy neon and like the badass cars and stuff. There's a lot of awesome like movie homages going on throughout this, like things that I really, really enjoy. So I'm gonna rattle a couple of them off. We'll go through them real quick. The Lion King. So when he's on the ancestral plane, there's the music, the visuals. It's very, very much Mufasa talking to Simba, and it's really cool. And I loved that, and so much so that in the scene where after when he's thrown off the waterfall, I just wish that there was a way to work Rafiki in to say the king has returned. Like that would have been standing ovation. Like, I mean, it's Disney, right? Like they could do that if they really wanted to.
I suppose that's true.
So that would have been really funny. Or if somebody said that and there's just like slight turns of the camera. But that would have been amazing.
This isn't Deadpool. Deadpool's not allowed to be a part of. Wait a minute, that's what we missed. I'm sorry, like hiatus here on the rest of the story for now. Did you hear? Apparently, the test screenings for Deadpool 2 were bombing.
No.
Yes.
Oh no.
I just saw that yesterday.
That's terrible.
I knew. See, I told you before when we did our pre-show. I told you. I feel like there was something I saw yesterday. That
was the one.
And I don't remember what it was. That's what it was.
Uh-oh.
There's only a couple of them, and it's unverified at this time. Like the sources I saw this from were not the ones I'm typically used to giving credence to. There's people claiming they were in the test screenings and that it was bombing with the audience. Although, admittedly, it's a very small sample size, and sometimes those things, there'll be one or two where it bombs with, but it'll be like successful across the board with the rest of them. So, but that's a little bit worrisome.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll have to keep a close eye on that, especially as more screenings, interviews or previews come out. So other movie nods. Like I had mentioned the Tokyo Drift thing because of like the color palette. Like it really reminds me of that. It also reminds me of Need for Speed Carbon. I don't know if you ever played that game, but it's just the crazy car chase and the just like the visceral scenery. Like it just reminded me of that. And on
They did
top
some
of
cool
that,
stuff in that. They did some cool stuff in that car chase. I really liked that tech where the sister, was it Sherry, was able to like hop in the driver's seat.
yes, that was cool.
There, and he's just up on top of the car and shit like that. Like that was pretty cool.
It was awesome. So, but you tie that into like the crazy car chase, which was very Bad Boys too. Like all the nonsense going on, like while they're driving through, and then the comedy of Bad Boys too as well. Like I feel like it might not be intentional, but it feels like a nod to like that type of movie and that type of thing. Two things that happened in there that blew my mind that I just thought were great. One, when I'm going to call her Michonne because I don't know her the character's name in the movie.
Is it Okoye?
What is it?
Okoye?
That sounds right.
Yeah,
no.
Character, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let me look at it. Yeah, that's right. Okoye. When she throws the spear through the windshield, but because it's vibranium, when it hits the ground, it goes through it and stops and causes the car to hit itself and flip. That was just, I was like, that's amazing.
I was going to take this down. Like, she's just going to, like, pop a tire? Or,
right.
Nope. It became one of those, like, fucking cone things they pop up from, like secure areas to, like, stop cars. Like,
but, like, in a really, that was, like, the concepts that they merged together. Like, okay, we have this awesome weapon that is supposed to be, like, the strongest thing, right? And then we have this car. Here's the cool thing that I've seen in movies before when that thing comes up and the car flips over. How can we merge these tools together? So you get that, and then you get the Ulysses shoots the car with his hand cannon, and she comes sliding down the road with the sitting in the seat with the steering wheel in her hand.
Oh yeah,
that was hysterical. That was just really funny to me. So that was.
Like, talk about how much fucking ass that Denai Guerrera kicked in this movie.
Yeah,
like she made Michonne look timid.
That was awesome. But like that combat training, I'm guessing, plus whatever choreography they went through here, like that's awesome.
Yeah, like her character was ridiculous in this. Like even just like something as simple as like the beginning of the scene in the casino, which also I thought was hysterical that she's bald in this entire movie, and then she's wearing a ridiculous wig and commenting on wearing a ridiculous wig, even though she wears a ridiculous wig in Walking Dead all the time.
Yep.
And the first thing she does when shit goes down in the casino is to grab the wig
and
throw it and use it as a weapon.
That was awesome. I love that. So there's the two other movie nods. One is the Star Wars Jedi Council.
I guess. Yeah.
So the reason I say that is not just, I mean, sure, it's just a council, right? It's not like it's Star Wars. But if you think about it, the way the room is laid out with the windows and what's going on in the background and the city, it's very Coruscant-esque, and it just reminds me of those scenes. And I thought that was cool. And then the biggest one, which is this is intentional. This is 100% intentional. The person who did this was a James Bond fan. His sister is Q, and it's awesome.
Yeah, basically.
Like they have the whole scene of James Bond walking in to the lab, and then Q saying, "Here's all the gadgets that you're going to use throughout the rest of this movie. Pay close attention because each one of them will become very important at some point or another." Except the boots. The sneakers didn't play a role at all.
Just a cheap joke.
It was a really cheap joke, but it was really funny.
It was okay. That was actually something that I kind of commented on, was like, some of the corny jokes are hit or miss, and that one, like, I laughed, but I also like was like, don't do that. we don't need a one of those jokes.
But what's great about that scene, because one, I just remember, like, you know, growing up on like GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies, and the scenes with James Bond and Q were my favorite scenes of those movies. Where he's like, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see these things in action. And when we find out what that suit can do, I'm like, that is gonna be dope.
That was a badass suit. The fucking kinetic energy absorption and then, like, amplification redirection. That was so badass.
Cool. I love that. It's such a good time.
So it kind of dug the whole purple like vibe to it. I wasn't sure how I was going to mix up wearing like the black thing and having like this dark purple thing. Yeah. Watching purple like spheres of energy every time he decided to detonate it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really good. It added
a lot of colors in this movie.
Yep. The color palette's phenomenal.
Fucking the purple horizon and the ancestral plane.
Yep.
A little trippy. It's not Annihilation level trippy, but it was a little trippy.
For sure. You know what really got me? The first scene that I really, really noticed it in was the like the proving thing or the challenge thing where M'Baku challenges him to the fight.
Mm-hmm.
In that scene, because each of the tribes is there and they're all up the side of this mountain and everybody's wearing these very, very colorful garbs, like that, it was just like in your face, like all of the colors, like the whole palette was very awesome. Bright, and I really liked that. That was solid. That was it for the movie nods that I wanted to mention, but something that I think really makes this thing work. Chadwick Boseman, the rhinos. I have that as listed under my funnies list. The rhino was really funny because
rhinos in all caps.
This was where what I was mentioning earlier, where there was a scene where there was a lull, but it ends up being like, hey, just pay a little bit of attention because this is going to come up later. Because I knew before it happened, I knew what was happening, and I was like, "Oh, good God, the rhinos are coming!" When he took the horn off of his belt, I was like, "No, not the rhinos." Did not expect them to have crazy ass armor on, but
those rhinos were fucking ridiculous.
That was really cool.
Also, speaking of movie nods, that whole scene played out in a more frenetic version of like the Battle of Pelennor and like the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And the fact that they had their gigantic fucking armored rhinos as opposed to skyscraper-sized elephants, like, still kind of worked.
Yeah, for sure. It was, it was a lot of fun. So, Chadwick Boseman.
Go on.
He pulls off the whole I'm a king thing really well in this movie. Like, I believe it.
Yeah.
I think he plays the character. I don't see you picking a better person to play this role. I really enjoyed it.
The voice annoyed me slightly at times.
Why is that?
I don't know. Because I really only felt like his annoyed me, not really anyone else.
Oh, interesting.
But also they had him do it a lot, so that's probably also why. Like, he probably had the most lines like that, so, like, I get it. But overall, I still think that he did a pretty damn good job in this role. Yeah. And it's a physical role. Like, they required him to do a lot of things like, like Tony Stark, it's not really Robert Downey Jr. doing a lot of action scenes. It's just usually his face and then CGI suit.
Right.
And there's plenty of CGI suit in this as well, but he also had 2 extended fight scenes where he was wearing like a loincloth. So, and admittedly, I'm sure they used stunt doubles and stuff like that, but it still also has to be him.
Right. Right, but yeah, he pulls it off, and he does a great job. I love when you're able to attach a character to the actor like that quickly. Like, I see this guy, I'm like, oh, this is Black Panther. I know that can hurt you a little bit in your career.
He's played a bunch of iconic roles.
Yeah, like let's see. Let me take a quick gander.
He's played James Brown, Thurgood Marshall, Jackie Robinson. Like, that's some pretty.
That's awesome.
Some pretty big-time people he's played.
Oh, okay, right, in 42. Oh, and I saw Get On Up. I just didn't know that was him. That's great.
Understandable, because they transformed him pretty well in that movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was solid. So he was solid. Now, the other villain that was also, again, another great... It's funny, because like we talked about Serkis, because he's just tremendous, but Michael B. Jordan kills it in this movie.
Yeah, it's funny because I kept hearing people say that like a ton before like the movie came out. Like, oh my gosh, he's great. This villain's so great. And I agree with all those things. While at the same time, also, he really did not get much screen time.
No, he didn't. But he had,
like, considering how much people were raving about him, it's astonishing how little screen time they gave him. Like, that's, I think, one of the main flaws of this movie is he was a villain I wanted to see more of. Like he was compelling, whether you agree or disagree with his, his plan and his politics or whatever. And it was somewhat sympathetic, obviously, even though he's trying to do something that is more or less well-intentioned in a deranged way.
Right.
But I feel like it's honestly, unfortunately, a failing of this movie. He needed more screen time.
I agree. I would have loved to see more of him. I realized what you were saying earlier, like two characters are taking us from too soon because he didn't get that screen time. Yeah, I agree. If he was featured more, it might have worked a little bit better.
That's probably true. I just felt like we were kind of robbed of more of him being him.
I agree. That's very fair. There's the thing I wanted to mention though.
Also, that dude got freaking jacked for this movie.
Yeah, definitely. So the prompts for him and who he is and how he is are nothing new. Like it's been done in movies and stuff before, but his delivery is what makes it complicated. Like because you can feel for the character and where he's coming from because he's very good at delivering that character. So like,
I think what part of what made him unique was delivering barely constrained rage at nearly every moment he's on screen without feeling like it was overdone.
Yeah. Well,
like a lot of times when someone's angry all the time on screen, they get annoying.
Yep.
And I never felt like he was annoying in that way because I wanted to hear more.
Right. No, I agree. And
because he kept it balanced. Because if you don't balance it right, you become Hayden Christensen at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
High ground.
No, prior to that.
I know. So here's another interesting thing which is done poorly in a lot of movies, but done really well here. And forgive me for not knowing their actual character names in the movie, but Michonne, Maz Kanata, and Q are not just filler. They're crucial to the way that things...
In order, Okoye, Nakia, and Shuri.
Thank you kindly. They're not... A character like that is normally just like a filler piece, I feel. And their characters
they felt like real characters. They didn't just feel like sidekicks.
Exactly. And that's awesome because they're super relevant and they're crucial to the way that things play out in the movie.
They felt like an ensemble instead of just the Warriors 3.
Right. Exactly. And that's great. Like, and there's got to be more of that.
Yeah. Well, I've heard some people clamoring for like a Dora Milaje movie, like about like those warrior, basically like their Secret Service warriors. Like even though most of them outside of Okoye don't get a ton of screen time or lines, although a couple of them got a couple little jabs here and there, but I think most of them ended up dying by the end of the movie, though. But
that would work as a good comic.
Yeah, I think that would work in like a smaller medium because I don't think there's enough there for it to be like its own standalone movie per se.
Right.
It's the type of thing that either you give them more screen time next time around, or like you could do like a Marvel Netflix show on them or something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. The good guys in this movie are flawed, and I like that. And they're flawed just because of basically because of the kings prior to them, and like they follow the king, they follow the royalty, like, you know, very strictly.
Good people doing the best thing that they could with a flawed premise. Right,
and I love that all of nothing's black and white. Like everything's like, okay, yeah, but it's a little complicated.
There was only like 2 white actors in the whole movie.
Oh god. Well done. Speaking of which, I love me some Martin Freeman.
I mean, he's good. They use him just the right amount.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree. But also make him out to be like this cool little badass hero with the whole like, I'm gonna stay in this thing even if this thing breaks through and kills me, because I understand how serious the situation is.
That way, right?
What's that?
He finally earned their respect that way.
Yeah.
I did think it was kind of funny, like you were saying, like a nod to the larger universe when they bring him in with the spinal injury, and Shuri says, "You brought me another broken white boy to fix," and it's like, that's right. Where is the Winter Soldier? Where is he hiding out?
Yeah, that's great, and then that was a solid after credit scene.
Yeah, I wish they had given us a little more with that.
I don't, just because it's just meant to be a tease, which I
not
appreciate.
A lot more, just a little bit.
Like see somebody else, see Cap or something.
Yeah, I honestly don't. There's probably no reason for him to not be there because he's in hiding as well.
Right.
Yeah. No. Maybe just 30 more seconds of the chit chat.
What if they were having that little chat and then Cap comes on screen? It's like, we gotta go.
Okay.
I mean, it's happening, right? It's in a couple of months.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty cool. I'm sure they have their
which is interesting. I mean, I think ultimately I agreed with them not using an Infinity Stone in this one.
Yeah.
In fact, I wasn't expecting there to be one, even though I knew there was a possibility for it. Mm-hmm. And I think ultimately I'm glad because it did allow them to have that distance from what's going on, even though the events of this are very real to like impact. Because if anyone who's seen the trailers for Infinity War, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening in Wakanda. A lot of those characters we are introduced to in this movie have been in those trailers. Mm-hmm. Like we're going to see more of Okoye kicking ass in this movie. Like,
I'm so excited. It's going to be good. Speaking of kicking ass, the choreography in this movie is awesome.
Yeah.
The fight scenes, like we talked about the big battle on the hill, but the challenge fight in the water and using the water as part of it. Yeah, like that was cool. I really like. At first I was like, this is annoying. Like why are you sitting in water? Oh, to make this scene really cool when they start fighting. Got it. which was well done. But
so I do feel bad. I kind of busted us out of what we were talking about. And there was one more point I wanted to make about the whole thing before I made the black and white joke. Part of what made it work, the whole idea, like you were saying about not everything being black and white, is they gave you a sympathetic villain and they gave you good guys who are conflicted or even possibly doing the wrong thing.
Right.
Where this is one of those movies where people always talk about it, but it's hard to actually execute, where one of the reasons Killmonger works is he is the protagonist of his own story. Mm-hmm. Right? A lot of times the villain is someone who is the antagonist of the protagonist. This is almost a movie with dual protagonists. We're just given kind of 55-45 on Black Panther's side.
Yeah, they gave you the Zangief monologue from Wreck-It Ralph. Just because you are a bad guy doesn't mean you are a bad guy.
Didn't see the movie. It went over my head.
Oh, no. It's so good. You didn't see Wreck-It Ralph?
No.
Please go see it.
Aren't they doing a sequel to that, too?
Yes, and it's going to be great. Oh, man, that movie is fantastic. We need to do that.
We'll see.
You will like that movie. You will definitely like that movie.
It feels like the animated version of Ready Player One.
Okay. I don't see what the problem is there.
No, I'm not saying is it a positive or negative, just making an observation.
Fair. Maybe that's why I liked it. That movie's great. But they have like a little all of the villains are in like it's almost like an AA meeting, but it's a group therapy meeting. And Zangief from Street Fighter says, just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean you are a bad guy. But I love that movie. Anyway, a couple of funny things that I have listed here. One, Wakabi's heavy breathing. So in the scenes where they have their arms crossed and they're breathing, but they're doing a little bit of a bounce. He's got this robe around him, and it just looks absurd every time the camera cuts to him. And it was Kim pointed it out, and it's hysterical.
Well, I was curious about that whole thing because the way he wore it for the whole, like, most of the movie, I was wondering whether or not it was going to be used as kind of a reveal at some point. Like, it seemed like it was intentionally obscuring something about his physiology. I was wondering if he had some sort of, like, horrific, like, war wound or some sort of disfigurement or something like that it was covering up. Because I think
it maybe just made him stand out a little bit more.
It just because it seemed unnecessarily bulky.
Right. Especially during those scenes.
What?
Especially during those scenes.
Well, yeah, that's why, like, when you're saying, like, it like, bumped up like that, like, I remember while I was watching, I was like, are we gonna get? Is there something about this? Like, I mean, like there was plenty of things that was like, oh, what's going on over there? But it seemed like it was like being used to obscure something about him, but it didn't end up paying off in any way.
Yeah, that was odd. The other funnies that I have listed, one was the rhinos, but we talked about that. The other one was this was one that it made me go and I'm a little bit sad that it took this long. T'Chaka and T'Challa.
Yeah.
Now I knew the names were very similar to the whole movie, but I couldn't tell you which one was which until the end in the post-credit scene when they said both of their names one after the other, and I went. Wasn't proud of that.
Yeah, that's not great. Especially since this is the second movie that both of them are in.
That doesn't actually makes it harder. Just add another letter or something.
There was more time to have figured it out.
That's fair.
I was actually going to kind of circle back to the whole idea of Wakabi, especially since we did Get Out. Was that last week?
Yeah.
Last week, and more Daniel Kaluuya talk, and he was also pretty
2 weeks ago from this episode. Annihilation is coming out Thursday.
And then Get Out will be after that.
No. I might have them backwards.
You definitely have them backwards.
I've got them backwards. I definitely have them backwards. It was last week. Moving on. Go on.
Yeah, anyway, Daniel Kaluuya, who we've both seemed to enjoy as an actor, also seems like he had fun some in this movie.
Yeah.
He got to play kind of a little bit more like sneaky, snarky, witty like guy in this. You kind of saw that eventually he'd be the one to betray him, but didn't make it not hurt when it happened because I kind of liked they were friends and he was just kind of funny, cracked a couple jokes, and I was just kind of ashamed to see him kind of give in to his hate and revenge. I can understand why he did, but it doesn't mean I didn't, like, as it was going on, like, don't you do it, and then he ends up doing it. But I also kind of felt it was a little bit of a broken note, him and his relationship with Okoye.
Yeah.
Because like, they have to like explicitly say it early on, which actually was fine as far as introducing it.
The my love thing.
Felt it.
Yeah, I agree. That was a little odd.
So when it comes up to the point where that's what decides the battle at the end, or at least decides on how many more people are going to die, like it's like, you know, like they had to literally come back and say, "Are you going to kill me, the person that you love?" And it's like, could have done that better.
Yeah. Like
it should have been a little bit more naturally done in the movie, where like you actually feel the stakes as opposed to having them be told what the stakes are.
I can get behind that.
And not a big deal.
No.
But just like a little thing. In a movie that was so good, that did so many things right, the few things that stuck out as being wrong stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I agree with that. There's the last item on my funnies list is, I don't know if you paid close attention to the credits, but did you see how Stan Lee was credited?
I don't remember.
Thirsty Gambler.
Yes, I did see that. That was funny.
I enjoy that. I'm just going to hold on to these for safekeeping.
That's AKA, things you're going to call me in future episodes.
Thirsty Gambler. That's right.
Yeah, I guess we have to enjoy Stan Lee as much as we can because his future appearances are dwindling. And that's not even like a thing, like a joke about like him going to be like dying soon because he's old. He said that he's got a limited amount that he's going to do.
Yeah.
Going forward, which is a shame. But also, he's over 90, so...
Yeah, I was going to say, he's getting up there. Like, we can cut the guy a break.
Yeah. I give him a break. It's just...
Every scene that he has been in, though, has been a home run.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorites is, I don't even remember which Spider-Man movie.
Maybe not the one in Guardians 2. That one I could have...
Oh, that was funny.
But
I love the one in Spider-Man. I don't remember which one it is, but when they're fighting in the library and he's got the headphones on.
The Garfield one, the first Andrew Garfield one.
Oh my god, that is so great.
Yes, I agree.
But that's actually all my notes. You have anything else you want to cover?
I mean, just kind of a couple little things. I really enjoyed the spirit plane visits.
Yeah.
Especially when we see 2 for T'Challa and 1 for Killmonger.
Yeah.
Actually, it's weird that they don't have it on the IMDb page what his Wakandan name was.
Oh, they don't?
They don't. It's not listed here, but I saw it on something earlier today, actually. It's N something, like N T'Chaka or something like that. It was like a longer name than the rest of them had, mostly.
Okay.
Or at least more syllables. I kind of thought it was cool how they had 2 very different ones because it was reflected in their own lives, basically. Like, T'Challa's is in Wakanda, and Killmonger's is in that apartment in Oakland.
Yeah.
Plus, they had that whole cool thing. Although they still had there's still some overarching things that draw the 2 together. The purple horizon and background, stuff like that ethereal quality to it. And the fact that no matter who you are, you go back and you talk to your father about what came before you and what made you who you are and what to do next.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I liked for that topic when T'Chaka says, a father has to prepare his son for when he's no longer going to be here, and like T'Challa is he's struggling with it. But when they do Killmonger scene, he's like, you don't seem upset. He's like, everybody's got to die sometime. Like,
yeah.
He prepared him. And like that, it just helps make it even more unclear. Like, there is a bad side to what he's trying to do, but his motivations are sound.
Yeah.
In a way, and it just adds to all of that. And it was just, I feel like that was really well done. And if you can get an Oscar for a single tear role, like that was really good.
Yeah, I guess what it comes down to, right, is T'Challa's journey is to do the wrong thing the right way.
Yeah.
And Killmonger's thing is to do the quote-unquote right thing the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what sets them at odds.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I don't know. And I also thought it was really cool how they shot it, where half the scenes are him as a little kid and half the scenes are him present day.
Oh, that was good editing. I liked that a lot.
Yeah. It was because it was done really seamlessly. I actually thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and not only just done so seamlessly that it's you see it and it feels right when it happens. There's nothing jarring about it.
No.
And that's that. I don't know how they pull that off, but it well done.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I mean, you realize what's his name? Ryan Coogler is he 31?
I don't know.
He's like super young.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he's turning 32 in a couple of months.
Good for you.
And he's made only a few movies and had a big impact. Like, his debut was Fruitvale Station.
Right.
And then he made Creed, which everyone seems to love. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, man. Creed was good.
And then he's got this.
I need to see Fruitvale Station. I really wanted to.
I've never seen it. I'm just aware that it's critically acclaimed.
Yeah.
Also, all 3 of them starring Michael B. Jordan.
Right.
In some capacity or other.
Solid choice.
Yeah. No, they got a good thing going together, so.
Keep it up.
We kind of hit on the corny jokes and stuff. We hit on the fun tech as well. Those were a couple of notes that I had.
Mm-hmm.
I just really liked this whole cast. I mean, it was a gigantic cast. And I like it for just a bunch of people that I like in it. And also, it seemed like they all meshed together really well.
Yeah.
What's his name? I felt like I knew him, but I really didn't, I guess. The guy who played M'Baku, Winston Duke. He ended up being really entertaining after I thought I was going to be annoyed by him early on.
Oh my god. The scene where friggin' Martin Freeman starts talking and they all start barking at him?
I actually thought that was a little bit too much, but the line he follows it up with about them being vegetarians was hysterical.
That was great. But they barked at him long enough to pull the Family Guy of it being, okay, enough. And then they got an extra chuckle and then they added that joke on top of it, which made me crack up.
Actually, I guess you're right. Because it was like towing the line between being too long and being so long that it became funny again.
Yeah.
Because at first I'm just like, okay, like we get it, And you're still barking. Great. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, thanks. We're done. Good.
That was funny. But the vegetarian line. So stupid.
But yeah, I think that's it. I really liked the cast, and
Yeah.
there's just like a lot of like nuts and bolts to this that I enjoyed. Like there's a bunch of cool fight scenes that thankfully aren't all like repetitive of each other, but they're still like there's something a little bit new like in each scene that they did like with the action stuff, but still all recognizable as being the same movie. Although ultimately, I guess the very final battle between the two of them left a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, that was at that point I was kind of done with the fighting.
Well, that's probably true to a certain extent as well, but I thought that it was all very well executed prior to that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a couple of little CGI glitches here and there because they had to get effects heavy, and also they were trying to blend effects with real looking locations as opposed to like the end of Wonder Woman where everything was just on fire.
Right.
I'm never going to let that go.
You know,
it's a big flaw in a good movie.
Yeah. The one of my favorites though was at the end when Martin Freeman's character flies the plane through the other plane, like as the final feat, and I was like, "Ooh, that!" And then he crashed to the ground, like in the little thing, because
the thing just dropped out underneath him.
That was just a really cool sequence overall, where she explains to him like what to do to break the chains, and then he guns it, blows it up, and it just plops down, like game over. And it was just really cool, really well done. Sweet. Solid movie. Can't wait to watch it again.
Yep. It was very entertaining. It was also the type of thing where there was so much going on that I'm sure I'll pick up on a bunch of little things when I see it again.
100%. Awesome. Well, that's it for episode 38 of Flix and a Six. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to keep the conversation going, I'm at AEJ Costanzo on Twitter and Instagram, and Al is at AlessandroB1187. Check back in next week for more movie and beer goodness. And until then, cheers.